Yeah, we saw a decidedly different Dan Hawkins this week than we've kind of gotten used to over the last 6 months or so. Uh, maybe you won't exactly agree with the way I word this, but Dan Hawkins has become a little bit surly, maybe terse at times with the media over the past 6 months or so. It really kind of began around the beginning of spring football and late last winter and continued, and then the results this season haven't helped matters any. And for whatever reason, the guy who was here and was really sort of media friendly and talkative and willing to sort of become introspective about his program and stuff, that guy was back this week. And I'm not sure what led to it, but maybe Dan just decided that fighting the fight he's been fighting against the media and outside people who are looking at his program and stuff, fighting that fight wasn't doing him any good.
I think what it came down to is I think Dan probably looked at this and said, his back is to the wall, and I think he's felt that for the last 6 months or so because, there were a lot of expectations going into this season, and it was almost a circle the wagons mentality. And I think he got to the midpoint of this season and decided that wasn't helping matters any. And that's not who Dan Hawkins is. I think people who have covered him for a long time, even going back to Boise, he's always been a little more open and, like you said, introspective and analytical about his team. And I think he just came in this week and said, you know what? You might as well get a dose of the old Dan Hawkins here, and I think he came out and said this is who he was, and I admire him for doing it. I thought it was a much more enjoyable press conference, and I think he said some things that were, much more about the team than he has said for the last few months.
Yeah, gave you a little bit of insight into what he was thinking, what he was going through. I mean, he came out and said that sometimes he realizes he can be a little bit stone-faced, and maybe that's not his best quality all the time, but he also said that he's never really been able to strike the balance or find where that balance lies between what to say, what not to say, how much is too much, and that sort of thing. And I come down on the side of you never want to be pushing people away. You never want to be, especially at a program like Colorado where you need all the support and all the friendly faces you can get. You don't want to make people who are trying to support you or trying to, tell your story feel like outsiders. And I just kind of feel like that's what he had been doing to a certain extent over the past few months.
Yeah, it was interesting to listen to him talk. I thought he was, like I said, it was, the new old Dan Hawkins. I mean, this was the Dan Hawkins of a couple of years ago. It was fun to listen to. I thought he said some interesting things. And the thing that struck me is he came out and said, yeah, they've made some mistakes.
Right.
He didn't go into specifics and talk about, certain decisions they've made, but he did. He said, they've made mistakes. If he had it to do over again, would he change some things he did? He said, yeah, I would. And I admire any coach or any leader in any position to say that it's been a learning experience for him. Now where he goes from here, obviously, is a big deal. They've got 5 games left. They could win some of those games, and let's face it, the Big 12 North, as much as we'd like to say that it's over with, it isn't. I don't know who's going to win that division.
Yeah, I agree. The Big 12 North is totally wide open, and when you talk about bowl eligibility, I think this team still has that goal out there, and you look back and you go, man, those games against Colorado State and Toledo, the way they started the season, if they could have gotten off to a little bit better start, then maybe they'd have bowl eligibility close to wrapped up at this point, and they could focus on just the Big 12 North. But it's all out there right now. It's all on their plate, but they got to start winning some games here. I mean, they can only afford basically one more loss. And
there's a bizarre scenario out there that is waiting for somebody in the Big 12 North. That could a team from the Big 12 North could end up winning the division with 4 wins. I mean, it's happened before.
Yeah, it happened in 2004. Yeah. The Buffs won it.
You could have a team win the Big 12 North with 4 wins and not be bowl eligible. Go to the Big 12 championship and by some unforeseen miracle win the Big 12 championship by knocking somebody off, probably Texas, and still not be bowl eligible. Do they get to go to a BCS bowl if they only have 5 wins?
I don't see how that could happen. I'm not following you.
Well, okay, if Colorado only wins 4 Big 12 games, right?
Right.
Then they would have 5 total, right?
Okay.
They go to the Big 12 championship. I guess that would give them 6. So
right.
They would still be 6 and 7. They wouldn't have a 500 record.
That's true, but you only need 6 wins.
I
correct?
thought you had to be 500. We'll have to look that up.
I think you only need 6 wins to have bowl eligibility.
You can still have a losing record.
Well, that would be sad, wouldn't it?
That would be sad. Okay, who wins?
I'm going with Missouri. I just, you know, what has happened in this series the past 2 years specifically just tells me that, you know, Colorado still has a lot of ground to make up, and the way they played last week at Kansas State, I know they're a better home team, but I mean that was a dud, and I have no reason to pick Colorado at this point.
I'm going to pick them because of the way they played at home. They played well against Wyoming. They played well against Kansas. They didn't play well against CSU. Last 2 times they've been home, they played well. Their defense is getting better. Missouri has a one-legged quarterback. I think this team actually believes they can win this game. I don't think they should. I think they believe they can. I think they believe they will win this game. I think this is a Colorado win. I'm going to say it's going to be 24-16.
I think we just found a Halloween costume for you. You could go as a one-legged quarterback.
And I still couldn't outrun Blaine Gabbert.
All right. Come back next week and we'll find out what you want to know.
I want to score.
What did you say? 20?
I said 24-16.
Wow. There's going to be a lot more points scored than that. I'll say Missouri. They keep it under 50 this year. I'll say Missouri scores 38 and the Buffs manage 28.
Okay.